Hey everyone, today we're going to take a look at Hyperdimension Neptunia Rebirth 2, Sister's Generation for the PC, which was released on Steam a short while ago. I'm a little disappointed that it's Steam only, but I'm happy to even have it released on PC. Rebirth 2 is a PC port of a Vita game, which in turn is a remake of Hyperdimension Neptunia Mark II for the PS3. Since the game is a sequel to Rebirth 1, I'm going to assume that you're at least somewhat familiar with the game's basic premise. If not, have a look at my review of Hyperdimension Neptunia Rebirth 1 first. In Neptunia Rebirth 2, the focus is on the CPU's little sisters who are called the CPU candidates. Basically what happens is that the goddesses get themselves all tangled up, and it's up to their little sisters to save them and the world. The CPU candidates are based on handheld consoles. Nepgear, the main character, is based on the Sega Game Gear. Uni on the PSP, and probably the Vita as well. And the twins Rom and Ram, who are based on the Nintendo DS and/or the 3DS. I actually think it was a pretty neat idea to have the DS and 3DS represented by twins. There are other characters like Iffy, Compa, Red, and Broccoli that join your party at various points in the story. Players of Mark II will notice that some characters such as Gust and Nisa are absent from this game. The main antagonist is an organization called ASIC, which promotes piracy and all that good stuff. Their main goal is to revive the deity of sin called R4. So, let's start talking about the gameplay. If you're familiar with the series, you'll know what to expect. Basically, you accept quests, go into a dungeon, kill a specific monster, gather certain items, or reach a specific spot in the dungeon. Speaking of dungeons, they're pretty much the same as in Rebirth 1, and even the older games Mark II and Victory. The environments just feel a little empty and sparse, to be honest. Battle is initiated when you come into contact with an enemy. You can get an advantage if you hit them before they touch you. The enemy gets first strike if you mistime your strike or get touched from behind. The battles are turn-based. The order of which character goes when is displayed on the top. When it's your turn, you can move your character within a radius. The rectangle in front of your characters shows the area of attack. The size and shape of the box is different depending on the character and their equipped weapon. The CPUs and CPU candidates can also transform into HDD mode, which boosts their stats. You can also use special attacks and items. The Lily system from previous games makes a return as well. You have up to 4 characters fighting at one time. You can also place support characters behind them. The more they fight alongside each other, the more they like each other. The more characters like each other, the more team attacks they have available to them.
So many fleshy bodies squeezing up against mine. It's like a giant wall of human pudding.
As with all Neptunia games, there are a ton of cutscenes with video game references, silly humor, and fan service. Also, for everyone who's played the original PS3 version, I'm happy to report that the 3D models have been replaced with the better-looking 2D ones during cutscenes. There are a few things you can do outside of battle as well. You can go to the museum and look through illustrations and listen to music, visit the shop to buy and sell items, and accept quests at the guild. There's also something called the remake system, which allows you to craft items, create dungeons, and change some aspects of the dungeons and battle system. It was introduced in Rebirth 1, but I never mentioned it in my review. I've not really played around with the remake system all that much, because I find it a little bit tedious. I'm not really into finding materials and crafting items. The remake system is deeper than Mark II's crafting system, so people who like that sort of thing will probably find this a great addition. Let's talk about some PC-specific stuff. Many problems present in Rebirth 1 haven't been fixed. The controls are terrible if you're thinking of using keyboard and mouse. The controller is your friend here. There are a few frame rate issues too. Sometimes, when transforming or doing special attacks, the frame rate drops quite a bit. I don't even have that happen in The Witcher 3, so that's kinda bad. Especially considering that the graphics of Rebirth 2 aren't even that good to begin with. Most of the time it runs at 60 frames per second though. The lack of 16:10 monitor support is also still present. Since my monitor does 1680 by 1050, I get black bars. The worst part is I can't even run it at that resolution. I have to play it at 1600 by 900. Since that isn't even my monitor's native resolution, it basically makes the game look bad on my screen. I have to say, at least they use black bars, unlike Rebirth 1, which had those stupid cloud bars. That still isn't fixed, by the way. How hard can it be to make a patch that removes this stupid texture? Another thing I don't like is that the costume canvas from Mark II has been dropped in Rebirth 2. It was cool that people could make their own skins for Nepgear, and it was fun to try them all out. I knew it was dropped for the Vita remake. I figured it was because of Sony's stupid idea of using Vita-specific memory cards, but there's no excuse for not including it in the PC version. How hard is it to put a folder in the game directory for players to be able to drop their skins into? They couldn't even get the keyboard controls right, so I guess I must have been expecting too much. There's one good thing though. I've not experienced any stability issues in Rebirth 2. Rebirth 1 crashed a lot for a lot of people, but even that was thankfully fixed with patches. As a PC port, I think this isn't all that good. It's not well optimized and the controls are hideous if you aren't using a controller. The PC version feels kind of thrown together. Also, it just doesn't look good for a PC game. It doesn't help that the game is a part of a Vita game. At least it didn't use the low-res Vita textures, which were not nice to look at all. Despite these flaws, they aren't big enough to spoil the game.
It's bigger than my face.
To end the review on a high note, despite the problems and the fact that the gameplay is pretty much the same as in Rebirth 1, overall I think the game is pretty good. I like the characters and the humor is pretty funny, for me anyways. The game mechanics are easy to figure out and is lighthearted and fun. Plus, the game has many endings, so there's replay value too. I really enjoyed playing the game and also recording the gameplay footage for it. I hope you enjoyed the review and see you again in the next video.